Great day, everyone. I'm back. I wanted to talk a little bit about. I don't have a title for this video yet, but I'll come up with one as I get finished here. I wanted to talk a little bit more about my journey and my self-reflection and this thing that we now know as self-love, true self-love, inner peace and self-love. As I mentioned in the other videos, it's it's not a simple day at the park or day at the beach. It's an ongoing process. And in that process, you will be forced to face or uncover parts of yourself that are not so loving. And that's what I want to talk about today. One of those parts of me that I have discovered through autopsy of my relationships. I learned that from Inyana. She tells that if you do a reflection over each relationship, you will learn a little bit more about, or you should learn more about how you show up in relationships. So my journey this is not at all the beginning of my journey. It has been years and years, but this one, it cut really deep because I guess this is the weed in the middle of the yard that I had been avoiding pulling up forever. So I'm going to go and preface it with hurting people, hurt people. And we all know that. But I think we can take it a little step further if we're wanting to be authentically honest. Hurting people get in other people's lives and fuck them up, either willingly or unwillingly, or excuse me, knowingly or unknowingly. When you are not healed, you are more than likely hurting someone or some people. My truth to uncover, and this might be tough, so I'm gonna, hopefully I can handle it, but because I'm still in the I'm in the midst of it. My truth is that I have been very critical of the people around me. And that makes me, it makes me feel sad. It makes me feel really sad because in identifying that, I had to unpack where it came from. And I'm sad because of where it came from. I'm embarrassed that it's gone on so long. So look at me using my words. When you're raised by emotionally unavailable parents, you learn that your emotions are useless, that they don't mean anything. It's not going to get you anywhere because nobody cares. And so you just refuse to deal with them, or I did. I don't know about everybody else, but I refused to deal with them. I just thug through everything. But now I'm learning to say what it is that I feel. So have some grace here with me. So knowing that I'm very critical and judgmental, I won't say very. Well, I have to be honest. I'm not going to come in here lying to y'all or myself. I have been judgmental, and that was what showed up in my autopsies of relationships that people say that I am a critical person, or that they can't do or they feel like they can't do anything right around me. And now part of it, I'm not taking responsibility for other people's unhealed wounds, because that's also a wound that people have when they feel like nothing is ever good enough, because they feel like they're not good enough. But on top of that, being a person who grew up in a very abusive home, where my mother abused, physically abused, and I guess verbally abused too, but mostly physically abused my brother, my older sibling, I learned that perfection is safe. It, if I could be perfect, then I was safe, I was accepted, and I was loved. So my mom kind of groomed me into that. She was a manic depressed person, which back then we didn't have all these titles, and mental illness was not something that people brought up or talked about. But when I go back as an adult and I travel back in time, then I can put a name on it. So as a 4-year-old, I had no idea that my mom was manic depressed, and I had no idea that she was abusive. I just knew that I was afraid of her, and I knew that if I wanted to survive in her world, that apparently I'm in the direct path of the airport, all the way up here in North Orlando. But nonetheless, I knew that if I did not do the things that he did, I knew I wouldn't get in trouble. All I had to do was be better than him, so that I could stay on the good side of her bad days. So that's where the perfectionism began. And I think she liked it, so she encouraged it or groomed me into being this person because she could benefit from it. Um, I clean the whole house without being asked. I made the best bed in the house. I swept the floor the best. I mopped the floor the best. I had the best grades. You name it, I performed for it. And going from there into boot camp, where you got yelled at, and they tell you, you get cussed at and all these things to complete the exercise. I learned to be very critical of myself, and I excelled really well in places like boot camp or the military, because it was easy for me. I had been practicing this all my life to be better than the person standing next to me. And so, yeah. So then I knew I would be rewarded if I could just be rank in the top 3 of everything that I did. So that's what I did, and I learned that behavior. And so I was hard on myself. I did not realize that I talked to myself in a way of, I got older and it was like, okay, well, the reason you're gaining weight logically is because you're sitting here eating fucking cookies. Get up and do some exercise. If you eat all 4 of the cookies, then you need to exercise. So I talked to myself in that way. So the people around me, I learned to have higher expectations for them, because if I couldn't accept second best for myself, I can't accept it from the people who are closest to me. So it was always that you can do better. That you can always do better, and that's not fair. That's not fair, and judging people is not nice. It's not kind at all. And if I ever made any of you feel lesser, or that I was better than you, or whatever it is that people feel when judgment comes, which I'm not going to say whatever it is, because I got an idea that most people feel like they can't do good enough to meet my standards. And I'm sorry. It's because I've always placed the highest standards on myself. And I haven't always talked nicely to myself if I don't meet my goals. So there's a thing called treat people the way you want to be treated. And I apparently treat people the way that I treat myself, because I learned this behavior, and I never realized how damaging it is until I had kids. And my kids would feel, my oldest, as a matter of fact, the youngest said, "Fuck you, I ain't, I'm not conforming." But the oldest said, every time you set a goal, you move the post, and it was then, I guess, that I actually started saying, okay, why do I do this? Because that's not what I don't want to hurt the people that I love the most, but it's because the people who were closest to me that I love the most, I required the most from. I guess I wanted them to be their best, and nonetheless, it's not. It's that's not okay. Anyways, so from age 4 is the time that I can remember that when my mom and my stepdad divorced, and I'm gonna call him Pops, because he's never in his life called me his stepdaughter. He's never called me his stepdaughter. I'm always his daughter. But when Mom and Pops divorced when I was 4, that's when it all began. And I just remember feeling unsafe, and I was always afraid. I guess I was living in fight and flight, and that was comfortable. I guess that was what worked. But then as you get older, life reinforced the grooming that my mom had placed, and it was that as a woman of color, you had to work, do 2 or 3 times the work of your counterpart just to even be acknowledged. And I wasn't used to that, but it made me rise to the occasion. Like I was always used to being the top tier, but then when I became an adult, or really got out in the workforce, I realized that somehow or another they're cheating, because I'm doing 100% and I'm not getting pats on the backs, attaboys. So then I learned that I had to do 2 and 3 times, and I'm always up for a challenge. So I met him. I met him at the challenge readily. But nonetheless, I was groomed, life reinforced what I had already been dealing with, and I just, I never realized the impact because I didn't see it as a problem. It was how I made it to where I am in life. And there's more than one way to skin a cat, and people have the way that they learned, and I have the way that I learned, and I want to be open to other things so that I can grow. And I've always been the person who has been open to criticism. And even in that, I'm a straight shooter, and I like it given to me that way. I am the person that if the dancing around before you get ready to tell me something is already putting me in a bad space because I don't like that for myself. I talk to myself straight up. And that's all I ever thought that I was doing to people that I loved. I thought that I'm just giving you the truth, which the truth has many facets. It's my truth, and it doesn't have to be your truth. So if I mean from the bottom of my heart that if I've ever made you feel anything other than loved, come to me and we can talk about it. Y'all know that I'm always open to talking about things. That's communication is my big is one of my strong suits. So, but it just it just frustrates me that it took me this long. So from age 4 to 50, I've been stumping on people unknowingly in the name of being upfront and honest. And I don't know the 100% how this is going to work out, but I know it's something that I'm working on. And so y'all just pray for me, and I am like the little girl with the glasses say on that little meme, I'm doing my best, honey. I'm doing my best. Uh, I could have never figured it out because I know a lot of people who died stupid or, excuse me, ignorant to life and the world around them. So uh, let's just be kind to one another and be kind to ourselves, because how we treat ourselves is how we, or I should say, how we feel about ourselves on the inside. That deepest wound is what bleeds out on other people. And so everybody, I'm not telling everybody to run out and try to do shadow work right away, because it's not for the weak. I can tell you that it's not for the weak. But definitely let's try. Let's try to heal. Let's try to heal as a people so that we can quit hurting each other.